before the wrestling legend and social media superstar known as the Iron Sheik would become one of Hulk Hogan's greatest rivals and be remembered upon his death as an industry trailblazer as well as a social media mainstay. Well, he was born Hossein Khosrow Ali Vaziri on March 15, 1942 in the Semen province of Iran. Raised by a pistachio farming family, well, the Sheik, he spent his early days without access to things most of us, well, we take for granted. We're talking running water, and he also had to contend with his country's mandatory military service. But it was the Sheik's passion for wrestling that would become his life's work. Now, as a child, the Sheik, he idolized Iranian wrestler Gholam Reis Atikti. I apologize if I butchered his name, but he was an Olympic gold medalist in freestyle wrestling. Now, this man hailed from the exact same neighborhood as the Sheik was born in, and the two would also share the same career path. A prodigy from the very beginning, within 3 years of taking up the sport, well, the Sheik had already become a national high school champion. Now, the Sheik's idol, he would then die in 1968 under mysterious circumstances. Now, while the official explanation of his death was ruled a suicide, there have always been whispers that he was taken care of because of his political learnings. Now, that same year, well, the Sheik, he competed for a spot in Iran's Greco-Roman wrestling team for the 1968 Olympics. And, well, sadly, he wouldn't actually make the cut. Disappointed with the outcome and shaken by the loss of his childhood idol, well, the Sheik adopted a new strategy to achieve his dream. Now, instead of staying in Iran, well, he decided to move to the United States, where he soon found a job working as an assistant coach for the U.S. men's wrestling team for the 1972 Olympics in Munich, which was most notable for the hostage crisis that unfolded, which was during the proceedings.
Yeah, Kaz was right in the middle of all that shit, and it was a pretty scary time for everyone that was in.
For the 1972 Olympics in Munich, which was most notable for the hostage crisis that unfolded during the proceedings. Now, after helping the Olympic team, well, the Iron Sheik, he would begin his professional wrestling career proper that very same year when he was hired by one of the sport's biggest promoters. We're talking Gagne. Now, the Iron Sheik's path towards becoming a professional wrestling legend, well, it began when he was recruited to the former Midwestern promotion known as AWA by its promoter, Gagne. Now, in these early days of his career, well, the Sheik, he wrestled by his real name of Ali Vaziri, and he was used as more of a traditional babyface who touted his real history as an assistant coach for the U.S. Olympic team. The only problem was, well, it didn't work. At least not well enough for the Sheik to make a decent living. So out went the Olympic hopeful American immigrant character, and in came the foreign menace that was originally designed in the mold of the infamous Detroit wrestler known as the Sheik. Now, this early version of the Iron Sheik, well, it borrowed heavily from his forebear's lust for ultra-violence by using weapons that were hidden in his boots to bloody his opponents. But once the Iron Sheik arrived in the World Wrestling Federation, well, the bloodletting went by the wayside, and his dangerous weapons were mainly regulated to his curved-toe Persian boots that were used to better his opponents. Now, if all of this seems a little bit, well, one-dimensional to you, well, what do you expect? I mean, it was the late 70s and the early 80s. And the Sheik, well, he was forced to turn heel not only because of the expectations of the genre, but by the crowd itself. Now, back then, the pro wrestling world, well, it had no patience for nuance. It only wanted good guys and bad guys. So that's what the Iron Sheik gave them. Now, after leaving the WWF in 1980, well, the Sheik would return to the promotion after Vince McMahon, well, he bought the company from his father in 1982. Now, at that time, well, Vince's first order of business was to put the WWF title on Hulk Hogan, but there was one problem. The current champ, Bob Buckland. Now, he refused to lay down for the Hulkster, so the Iron Sheik was brought in as a transitional champ. So he defeated Buckland with his finishing maneuver, the Camel Clutch, and he took home the title at Madison Square Gardens the night after Christmas in 1983. Sure, the Iron Sheik, he would lose the title just 1 month later to Hogan at the very same venue, but fans of wrestling still speak highly of this title win to this day. And guess what? Well, as excited as the crowd was that night to see Hogan crowned as the new champ, well, the loudest they ever got was when the Iron Sheik hoisted the belt over his head during the pre-match introductions. Well, they booed him relentlessly. And in the sport of wrestling, well, getting a reaction of any type, well, isn't that what it's all about? I mean, a few were better at doing that than the Iron Sheik. Now, there's also a long-standing conspiracy built into that Hogan match. Now, the legend goes that the Iron Sheik's former boss, well, he offered the Sheik a $100,000 bounty to break Hogan's leg during that match, so as to embarrass the Hulkster who had just left the AWA to join the WWF. WWF. Now, whether or not if this rumor is true, well, it depends on who you ask. Now, his manager, his own son, has denied the rumor, while both Hogan and the Iron Sheik have spoken about it as being factual. Whether it's true or not, well, after that Hogan match, well, the Sheik's career kept moving forward, and he famously teamed up with the Russian villain, Nikolai Volkov, to form a tag team of anti-Americans who eventually claimed the tag titles. Now, by this point, well, the Sheik's shtick, it had already become more of a comedy act than a threatening menace, but his run with the WWF, it would come to an unceremonious end when he and his on-screen rival, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, well, they were pulled over by the New Jersey State Police one night while driving and found in possession of cocaine. Now, the Iron Sheik, he didn't lose his job because of drugs. Instead, he wound up getting fired from the WWF because the story broke the fourth wall when it came to behind the scenes of the industry, and it revealed that these two blood rivals, well, they were actually pretty good friends. So when Duggan, the bigger star of the two at the time, well, when he got suspended and the Sheik was fired, well, people were like, wait, they hang out with each other? We don't care they do drugs. We just don't want them to be friends. But seeing as this is wrestling, the Sheik would return briefly to the company the following year, but it didn't last long and he was quickly gone once more, moving on to tour the remaining wrestling organizations outside of the WWF, including a somewhat notable run in WCW. Then in 2001 at WrestleMania 17, well, a number of mostly retired performers, well, they took part in a gimmick battle royale to drum up a little good old-fashioned fan nostalgia. Now, much to everyone's surprise, well, the Iron Sheik, he won the match, supposedly because his knees and ankles were in such bad shape that no one wanted to risk tossing him over the top rope. Now, after earning his victory, well, the crowd, they embraced him like they seldom had before. Now, by the 21st century, well, the sport of pro wrestling, it completely changed. Wrestlers generally abandoned the more extreme gimmicks of the past, and they took to using their real names more and more. So it's not that much of a surprise to learn that the Iron Sheik's final chapter, in which he became a self-caricature of himself, well, it's what he's best known for. From memorably crude interviews like his infamous appearance on the Howard Stern Show, to reminiscing warts and all about his career with anyone willing to stick a microphone in front of his face, well, the Sheik was never short of an entertaining story worth telling. And then there's, well, his social media account. Now, not everyone knows this, but the Iron Sheik is wildly popular, not to mention frequently hilarious, with posts that were written by him. Okay, maybe not him, but his nephew, Paige, and Gian McGinn. Now, largely a parody of the Iron Sheik's legacy, while most of these musings were typed out phonetically in all caps, while crassly insulting former co-workers like Hulk Hogan with an endless amount of swearing. But life after wrestling, it wasn't all fun and games for the Sheik and his family. Now, in 2003, his daughter Marissa, well, she was actually strangled to death by her boyfriend, Charles Warren Reynolds, when she was just 27 years old. Now, the murder, it was committed in the aftermath of a party, and Charles, well, he later told the police, she's such a good girl, but she wouldn't calm down. Now, during the trial that unfolded, well, the Sheik's family, they had to stop him from using a razor blade he had snuck into the courtroom inside of his mouth to kill Charles. Now, the only thing that brought the Sheik back to his senses was when his daughter Tanya told him that she couldn't lose another family member. Now, for the next few years, well, the Sheik's issues with substance abuse, they worsened. Eventually, he got clean in 2009, but like so many wrestlers from his generation, by that point, well, his body was already failing him. Now, despite several corrective surgeries, he could barely walk, and he also didn't have the necessary money to to get the help he needed. Now, in his later years, his legacy was mainly relegated to his social media presence, which, as I already pointed out, was ironically not even truly his to begin with. Then on June 7, 2023 came news that the Iron Sheik, he had passed away. Now, while no reason for his death was given, his family mourned him on social media with a post that read in part, "It is with great sadness that we share the news of the passing of the Iron Sheik, but we also take solace in knowing that he departed this world peacefully, leaving behind a legacy that will endure for generations to come." Now, as soon as the news broke, well, many of the Sheik's former peers in the industry, they also mourned the loss. Jake the Snake Roberts, he wrote, "A true icon and someone who left a mark on wrestling that can never be erased. Another great one gone." And even The Rock, he posted a heartfelt tribute to the Sheik, recounting not only how the veteran and his family took him under their wing when The Rock was just a little kid, but how the Sheik also contributed to The Rock's massively popular catchphrase, "I'm talking jabroni." And when The Rock takes time out of his unbelievable busy schedule to celebrate the legacy of someone, well, you know that that person must have left an indelible mark on what they did. And well, there's no denying that by every conceivable standard, well, the Iron Sheik was a wrestling legend. His incredible personality, it will be missed. So yeah, rest in peace to the Iron Sheik, and hey, fuck the death forever. And there's no denying that by every conceivable standard, well, the Iron Sheik, well, he's a wrestling legend, and his incredible personality will be missed. So I'll wrap this video up with rest in peace to the Iron Iron Sheik. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap up this video here. This is a Gone But Not Forgotten, or Before They Were Gone. I do have a question for you guys. What's your favorite Iron Sheik social media post of all time? I'm sure if you watch this video to the end, you are certainly a fan of this man. So let us know in the comments down below. We also sometimes tag on a previous uploaded video to the end of these. So I'm sure we've got some. I remember Vader passed away. He was a wrestling guy. So yeah, maybe we'll tag that on here at the end for those who want to stick around. Hope you enjoy it. All right, bye.